Guys, welcome back. We are so excited today to be talking to Wendy Dalrymple, the queen of pink horror. We're going to have an awesome conversation. Welcome, Wendy.
Hi, Adam and Rebecca. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining. I want to tell you to start the bat off here. Like, normally Adam and I take turns, like, recommending books to each other. But when I saw the cover of Credenza, he didn't have to say anything. I was like, I need to read this. And then he was like, oh, that book was so good. And I kind of related it like, oh, my Goodreads review. I was like, the book spoke to me, like the Credenza spoke to the character. Because I was like, I need to read it. I was just so intrigued of how, like, you can take a word that's, you hear like a buffet, a server. It's like, okay, what exactly is the credenza? And how can an author take an entire book about a piece of furniture? I was like, I have to read this. Like, my curiosity was so piqued.
Oh, well, thank you. That's the best I can hear. That's a great compliment.
And I was not disappointed at all. It was, as I told you, as we got just getting started here, that, it has been a long time since I've had to like push past my bedtime where I'm exhausted and I'm like, I got to figure this out, how to stay awake because I have to finish this book tonight. And I don't care about the consequences for the next day. And that's exactly what happened. You built in so much twists and anticipation and things that just were like jump scares. And it was just a true page turner.
Well, thank you. As a fellow reader, I understand that and I appreciate that. So that's a good compliment.
Our first question is did a credenza hurt you at some point in
Yeah.
life? Where did this trauma
Credenza
come
did not
from?
hurt me, but a coffee table did.
Oh, no.
So actually, same grandma, same vintage style furniture. There was a coffee table in her living room that apparently I fell into when I was 18 months old or 2 years old, and I have a scar above my eyebrow, as many of us do from it. And as the story goes, I got up, dusted myself off, didn't even realize I was hurt until I saw the blood on my hand, and then I started
Mm,
crying. So that's a story my parents have always enjoyed telling me. But yeah, that the credenza was a little bit inspired by that experience, and just I have a lot of nostalgia. I spent a lot of time growing up with my grandparents and have a
yeah.
lot of nostalgia surrounding their furniture because it was such a fixture in their home, and so was I. And so I think that's where probably a lot of that came from.
That's funny because I have a similar story where I was jumping on the bed at about three, I think, two or three, and I jumped off and hit below my eye and was similar that I was fine until my mother apparently thought because of where the blood was that I had popped my eye out.
Oh my
Because
gosh.
and then so I don't remember it, but there is a scar under my eye from the similar, experience.
I
So
thought you were going to share the story where Annabelle, our youngest, like at daycare, I guess she slipped and hit her head on one of like the things that she has a scar deep in her eyebrow now. Like,
yeah,
you know how like the scars heal like that kind of silvery white and she's already like blonde haired, but you can still see it. And it's like, how many of us have these fun little, yeah, this happened at two or
yeah.
three.
Yeah. And I think a lot of it, like, I'm an eldest child, and my own eldest child would do the same thing, and it's just like just your first kid, and accidents happen and things happen, but it's just, I think we all have our own near death childhood story that we can share.
Yeah. So one of the things that I got to get into right away here, like I'm big into like etymology or like how a word comes to be. And you basically give an explanation of what the word credenza is. And I'm like, is she making this up? Like, and then like immediately once I was done reading the book, I had to look and I'm like, no, that was real. Like everything you've written about it. And how often have we just used this term? Like, oh, get this out of the credenza, put the dishes in the credenza. Like, I grew up and, I think any of us like that have like older parents or, just like spent time with grandparents, they had those cherished pieces of furniture. That was the style at that time that, you held on to these really good made pieces of furniture. So a credenza I pulled up the definition here. The word credenza comes from the Italian word credenza, which itself is rooted in Latin credere, meaning to believe or to trust. So why to believe? In the 16th century, a credenza was not a piece of furniture, but a ritual. A food taster would eat part of a meal before a noble or important figure to prove it wasn't poisoned. This act was called credenza because it inspired trust or belief that the food was safe. So over time, the room where the food tasting occurred was called the credenza, and then eventually the term came to refer to the furniture in that room used for storing and preparing the food before serving. And by the 19th century, credenza became a standard term for a sideboard or a cabinet, especially in Italian and later English speaking homes. So yeah, I was like, I didn't get to the point yet to figure out why was there such suspicion around thinking food was poisoned at that time. Do you know that story?
I would only suspect that that was a old school way to get rid of a political figure or king that you did not like. But yeah.
All I can think of is the Princess Bride when they're, sitting at the table with the wine.
Yeah.
Well, we just recently watched The Tingler, and she pours this wine with all this LSD in it. And he's like, she goes to hand it to her husband, and who is Vincent Price. And he's like, no, I'll take the other one. Thanks. And she's like, no, it's fine. I made this one for you. And he's like, no, I'd really like to have the other one. And she's like, okay. And she passes it to him, and she sits down and starts sipping. And she's like, I just love that you're so predictable.
Yeah.
Like, she knew that he was going to be paranoid and knew that he was going to force that. So, it just anticipated it.
Very interesting. Well,
But the credenza to have that is just fascinating me that, it used to be, okay, it went from a concept to a room, and now the pieces of furniture within it get that name. Like, that was just awesome.
Well, I appreciate. I also am a fan of etymology, and I always love credenza is such a fun word to say, isn't it? And so in preparation for this story, also did my research on the roots of that term, and that did help inform a little bit of the storytelling for this for me. And so, yeah, I think it's interesting. Also, my grandma did call that type of furniture a credenza, and she's got Mediterranean lineage. And so I'm sure
Yeah.
that
Okay.
that's where that came from. Whereas my Midwestern grandmother would have called that type of thing a buffet. So
Yes. Yes.
yeah, it's just depending on region what you would, call that type of furniture.
See, like, I just feel like you read a book, and some people think like, oh, you can only learn from nonfiction, but not really. I learn so much from fiction all the time.
Well, definitely.
And
Yeah.
it's just fantastic. And it's just like, I don't know what trivia game we're going to be playing, or, how this is going to come up, but I know damn well I'll be glad that I read this,
And
because
whatever prize we win,
It's going to be
we'll
a winning Jeopardy
exactly.
answer
Thank
someday, and you guys
you.
can thank me.
Yep. We'll
Mhm.
send you some of whatever it is that we win for that. Make sure
Mhm.
to share it.
But now that you said it's such a fun word to say, I feel like just like popping out at people, Credenza,
Yeah.
just scaring the shit out of them.
Well, as this book does. So, but I wanted to sort of your background in general. We always like to talk about how has horror played a part in your life in general, and then I want to specifically get into sort of this like really interesting niche that you have sort of carved out for yourself of pink horror, what that means, and sort of like how that informs your writing, what it is that you're trying to get across to readers. So
Keep all that in your head, Wendy.
yeah. So first,
Sure. Well, I love
how
talking about pink horror, and I have no
yeah,
problem. Yeah.
have you always been a horror fan?
Yeah, as long as I can remember. I mean, my earliest memories, I always enjoyed Halloween as a little kid. Like, I think I was a witch about 5 or 6 times as a kid for Halloween. My first cat was a black cat named Midnight. I just always found myself drawn to spooky things. And, as many of us horror readers are, I was reading stuff that nowadays would be banned when I was, 8, 9, 10 years old. I was just a voracious reader as a child, and horror was,
Yeah.
after I burned through all of the Babysitters Club books and stuff like that,
Mhm.
I just found myself always gravitating towards horror. And, same with horror films and spooky television shows that seem to be just crammed down the throats of children that were born in the 80s and 90s. It's just something that's always fascinated me. Likewise, I've always been a very fearful person, and I was a very fearful child. It's strange to say, but horror has kind of been a way for me to help manage my anxiety and deal with those little spikes of adrenaline in manageable ways, and also in an enjoyable way because I like it.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna say. Does it help you like reframe it as like when you have this feeling, it can be a good thing or it can be a fun thing instead of this like terrifying.
Yeah, and most of the horror that I enjoy is what I would call fun. It's like that roller coaster of jump scare and then laugh, and like that's really my favorite. I like really dark stuff too, don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
but like if I had my druthers, I always go towards something that has a really good balance of humor and horror. But yeah, so and for as long as I have been a horror reader and fan, I also have wanted to be a writer. That's been my lifelong goal, something I've always wanted to do. After college, I did the whole corporate world and young mother thing for a long time and had to put my writing on the back burner. Now it's my time, and I'm just gonna keep writing for as long as my little fingers work.
Well, we'll keep reading too.
Yeah. I recently posted the other day, I'm like, if Wendy writes it, we're reading it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Thank you.
One thing to skip to the end, like not of this particular book, but in general, all of the books of yours that I've read, and there's one thing that like a lot of times in anything, a movie, book, whatever it is, you're always reading a book and you're hoping like that ending hits, the right way and like that it brings everything together. And one thing that I will always say whenever I'm reading your books, it always catches me by surprise and it shouldn't at this point, but your endings are like the best endings. Like I remember reading Birthday Party Demon, and I won't spoil anything for it, but it is so much fun. I was enjoying it the entire time. And then maybe the last 5 or 10 pages, you just like slap me over the face. And I was like, Wendy, my God. And it's like every single book since then, I'm like, you do it every single time, and do you
I know exactly what part you're talking about in this book here. It
do
was
you have
diabolical.
yes. Do you have that before you start, or are you like, "Ooh, this is gonna fuck people up really?"
No, first of all, thank you, but also I think it's just, I'm first and foremost I'm a reader and an appreciator of stories. And so I hate it when I'm watching something and I'm enjoying it and then the ending falls flat. I absolutely
Yeah.
It's just like, oh, what a bummer. It was so good and why did you end it like that? So I don't know if it's just I know that I want to stick the landing, I want to get that
Yeah,
triple axle and I also want to stick the
exact
landing. So
girl.
like I think it's just I usually do when I set out to write a story, it's pretty much 75% outlined and I know how it's going to go from beginning to end. And so I think that does help. I really am in awe of people who pants their way through stories. It's amazing to me because I'm just too organized in my own head to let myself break
Yeah.
out of that. But yeah, so it's usually predetermined from the beginning how it will end.
Okay, points for the ice skating reference. Like, okay. And yeah, it is amazing like how pantsers are able to do this. I like seeing, I think I'd be more of a planner out myself too, but I feel like that scene was so just the anticipation and the amount that has led up to that scene
In Credenza.
in Credenza that is so like, holy, what is all happening here? And it just kind of all unfolds where you're like, kind of frozen and like, oh my God, like, look at the situation we're in. And then you take it to the next level, like, here you go. And I thought that was just, when you say like you're trying to stick the landing, it's like, I think at times we can say, yeah, the whole book was great, but if the ending doesn't end well, it's almost like the rest of the book doesn't feel good anymore. And I don't know why that is, but that sticking the landing really does matter.
Yeah, I agree.
I think that, when you talk about like pantsers and planners and that stuff like that, like I obviously enjoy books by writers that do both. But I think when someone has planned it out and you can see that, like after you get to that ending,
It's like more
and
satisfying.
you can kind of see those pieces that were put in beforehand that pointed to it, but you're like not sure exactly what they meant at the time. It
Mhm.
again makes it that much more satisfying as
Yeah,
well.
it's very rich. So I wanted to ask, when they're saying like, as it goes into pink horror and do you like that label of it? Like there's like that consideration where it's like, why do you have to say girl boss?
Yeah.
It's
Sure.
just
I mean,
boss. Like, do
and I've
we
definitely
like the
seen
idea?
this, yeah, I've seen that, criticism of it, and
Okay, I
I'm a
haven't,
pretty
truthfully. Like, that's just something I wondered. Okay, great.
No, and yeah, and I understand the criticism of it. I try to push it as much as possible just for my own personal branding, because I think that when people understand what it is, or if they even hear it and it resonates with them, then my stories will resonate as well. Does that make sense?
Sure.
Um and I think that our political climate here in the US is just proving that we need to put women's work to the front even more.
Absolutely.
Especially
And
where you're
so
at.
I'm proud to be a woman. I'm proud to be feminine and femme, and that does inform my stories and my writing. So why wouldn't I put that label on
Lean
it for
into it.
myself?
Yeah, no, it makes total sense for me. I feel like it's a wonderful highlight to immediately know like kind of what I'm getting into and what I'm supporting. So like I don't personally have an issue, just was curious as you're
Sure. No, in
as
my mind, it's more of a celebration than a separation. I know that some
perfect.
people who are,
Precisely.
yeah, I
I
think
love
that
that.
people who are critical of it feel like they like what I want. I want there to absolutely be no need for putting women in the spotlight and making sure that we edge our way into equality. But that's not the world that we've ever lived in, and it's not the
Ever.
world we live in now. So yes, I'm going to proudly say this is my story, and it has feminine themes, and I am a woman, and I wrote it.
Good.
And what I do love about that is pink horror in no way means it's not gory, does not go hard into the horror, but
Absolutely.
those themes, like you said, because like frankly, I will never have Thanksgiving dinner again the same way after reading this book. And anyone that has read it or will know exactly what I'm talking about. But
What if I like
especially,
recreated that same meal?
yeah, I would rather you not.
We're like, what the are you fucking with me? Not for Thanksgiving, but just like in
Just in
general.
general, I'll be like, what did I do?
Yeah.
um, especially in this book, I love the way that you so accurately portrayed being a parent. Obviously, I'm not a mother, but being a parent that is having to suddenly share custody in some way of your child. And like, I love that Veronica, is such an adult about it. She is conflicted. She is not happy about it, but at the end of the day, she wants to do what's best for her child. And I think the way that you like capture that in this book, outside of all the horror and all that kind of stuff, because that's a horror in itself to feel like you're potentially losing your
Yes.
best friend.
Definitely. And that's, that was part of the pink horror aspect of it, is just, the it's it's not like horror in the way of being murdered is horror, but
Yeah.
and just the internal struggles.
So did that come from anything personal, not just yourself, but something that you've seen? Because you do it so well in this book. It feels
Well,
so authentic.
there's observations of other people. That's not my specific personal experience, but I do have teenage sons, and they're growing up and becoming more independent. And while I definitely want to do my part as a parent to facilitate that and to help them grow in a healthy way, it's also heartbreaking to have to let them go. So I think that that's something that, that a lot of the generation before ours, like you're 18 and you get kicked out and good luck, you're on your own. And now I want to I make sure my children are successful in being adults, and at the same time I never want to let them go. So it's there that was at play in the tugging of the heartstrings, and that portion of the story.
Yeah, and I think that that's sort of like, I don't know where that line, maybe we're Xenials, whatever that,
It's the micro
yeah,
generation of
yeah,
77 to 83.
yes, and we're right in that. And I think that's kind of like when it kind of changed almost of like, I think that parents before that, there was like this, whether it
Beat
was
it.
be seen or not heard, but it was like, children were almost more of an annoyance, at least as it was depicted in media and culture and stuff like that. I don't know how much that was the case in
Or
reality,
even
but
just latchkey kids that just detached. Like,
Yeah.
even
yeah,
if it wasn't
it was like, get out of
intentional,
here, come back
even if there wasn't an attitude towards it, it just was how it was. Yeah.
yeah. And I think that now it's like we enjoy our children. It's
No,
like,
I think
yeah,
that's definitely true in the way that, like, the Victorian era kind of helped to create childhood and make, parenting be a joy for at least people that were upper class and had money.
Mm-hmm.
I think that millennial parents are definitely having a similar renaissance in parenting styles and the way that we value childhood and protect our children.
Yeah, and I think that you really captured that really well, sort of that feeling, because Veronica has money struggles. It's not easy, but it's always like, how can I make this life good for her? And then enter, this really terrifying, supernatural, confusing threat that's happening that just kind of escalates and makes it even bigger of what's happening, in her personal life, kind of. So
I really liked when there's a part where they're like, okay, well, let's plan a trip together. And she's like, where do you want to go? And she lists off like different places in Europe and like night. And she's like, Antarctica. And I just, and Veronica's like, really, it's going to be cold, but like, okay. And I just felt like that to me was like a very warm hug of like, I just want to make you happy.
yeah.
Yeah. Yes.
So the other thing that I would say that was really interesting, and I was kind of looking over it again, we actually live near Lancaster.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Like where the Amish are and everything. So like this old style of furniture and like the importance of where it was sourced from and all that kind of stuff, it really like hit home
Yes.
here. So it was really interesting. And I'm kind of like, we're in Rebecca's mom's house right now where she has a lot of really old furniture. And I am kind of giving it the side eye right now after reading this book. But to not, get into too much. I know the book's been out for a little bit, but I still don't want to do any spoilers. But ultimately, the source and where, you know, something comes from holds a power that continues well after it's gone. And I was just wondering where the sort of the origins of that idea came from for this book.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, as most all of my books are, this one's set in Florida. And a lot of the aesthetic and feel around Florida Gothic has to do with the fact that very little here in the way of architecture or infrastructure is not very old. We still have a lot of, natural spaces here, but when I was growing up, anything that seemed old to me was really mid-century. It was all where I grew up in Lee County. Nothing was older than 30 or 40 years old at that point. And so to infuse the Gothic element into this, I tried to think, like about my grandmother's mid-century furniture, and a lot of it was like Danish, like that was the style, right? And so kind of bringing over the old world into my Florida Gothic through the lens of furniture, and also the idea that I have furniture in my home that's older than me, and that when I'm gone, it'll still be around. Like, that's such a weird thing to think about, you know?
Yeah.
It's just the timelessness of things. As long as they're taken care of, they can outlive us all. And so that's kind of where that all came into play.
And sort of infusing that with like either a positive or negative sort of energy outside
Yeah.
of, I think that a lot of times like we think of the memories that we have with that piece of furniture, but when you think that it existed before us and after us, does it have sort of like something independent of that? And I
Yeah,
love that
and
you
the
talk about
cabinet that I did inherit from my grandmother, it still smells like her house, and
that.
she's been gone for 20 years, and that has been in my possession for at least 10 years. And so it's like it does. It holds memory. It holds, meaning and vibes, I guess.
So when we were at StokerCon, there was a whole panel on like, if you could pick anything to be haunted, they were asking it to like,
It was like a cursed objects panel.
yeah. And what things. And so again, I'm just delighted that you chose that. And you think of the fact that like the energy and the makers, and like I've had several clients that are Amish, but just saying like, how did you learn how to make furniture? And like, well, you steam it and you learn how to bend the wood and, the shape of it. Like there's so much artistry that comes into it and pouring yourself into whatever. But I just got a kick out of this panel at StokerCon because the one librarian, Karina Stepensky, who is going to be a guest on the show too, but they were like, what haunted item would you have? And she's like, does anybody here remember a Billy Bass? Or like the fish where it starts
Yeah.
saying that? I mean, it just erupted in laughter.
Yeah.
And so good. And then Clay McLeod Chaplin went into like, well, you could just put a little ghost in anything.
Yeah.
You certainly could, but some things are definitely more nefarious than others. And I think when it's something that you don't
Clay
expect.
McLeod Chapman. Oh, God. Sorry, can you say it one more time? Because I messed it up. We could just edit out
Yes.
the whole thing about clay. Okay, I'm sorry. So you could just start over and say your whole thing. Some things are more nefarious.
Well, yeah, no, but you can make anything haunted for sure or cursed. But I think when something doesn't seem as nefarious, it's even scarier, or when it's not supposed to be, which is why I think like haunted toys are like dolls or wind up toys or whatever are even creepier because they're supposed to be, innocent
Right.
childhood items.
Right.
I think that's interesting when you talk about that with Florida specifically, because like it's such a juxtaposition because like, you think of like St. Augustine and it's like what the oldest,
Yeah.
and
There's
colony,
a fort.
colonized, whatever
Yeah,
you
all
want to
that.
say it.
Yeah.
But then also at the same time, like you said, like the sort of modern infrastructure, everything is
Well,
relatively new. So like,
the whole
but
meaning of Epcot, right?
so like, I know that, it's pink horror and then there's Florida Gothic. So can you like kind of explain what Florida Gothic is to you? Because that I love Southern Gothic. I'm from Tennessee originally, and like just these things, because Florida is sort of like its own thing within the space of the South because it
Yes.
is
Definitely.
so
Yeah. And I
big
mean,
and different.
Florida Gothic definitely is Southern Gothic, but with many of its own branches. Like they say, the further you get away, the further south you go from the Florida Georgia line, the less in the south you are.
Right.
And that's also true of the coastline. Like anywhere in the coast and anywhere south of, Gainesville, Tampa Bay area, that's to me Florida Gothic. That's not really Southern Gothic. There's
Mhm.
the beach, there's tropical Gothic elements that go into it. There's daylight horror has a lot to do with it. Climate horror, the oppressive heat and humidity that
Yeah.
that plays on your mind. The crazy wildlife here, the Jurassic sized alligators that we have in our backyards sometimes. The but is and I've said this on a few other podcasts that he's like his own crypto creature in his own right these days. The, the people here are just like a conglomeration of people from all around the world.
I was just gonna literally say that. I was gonna say, like, sociologically, the migration patterns, right? Like, you would imagine in portions like in Georgia and South Carolina, like there might be generations of people that have been there, but when it comes to Florida, I mean, these people that are snowbirding, or the people that have made it the entire time. Like there's so much culture that just rolls up and wraps into those areas that converge. And I think that's why you get the craziest news stories that come out of
Yeah,
there
because
too.
there's just so many different personalities and people backgrounds and lifestyles that are all trying to exist together in this boilerplate overcrowded place that that's why I think we have so many crazy things happen here.
And I think too, the heat really plays a part in that because I mean, traditionally has caused a lot of like violence, like your temper thresholds for like,
Hmm.
could really,
It certainly makes you have like a lot less. What is it?
I was,
Patience.
Yes, the word I'm
Yeah.
looking
what'd
for.
you say?
Yes, patience.
Yes, a
Yeah,
lot
Yeah.
less
yeah.
patience.
So
No,
it's
it's
like
like,
I'm mad when I'm hot.
yeah, no, like that scene in Ghostbusters 2 where Egon is like testing the couple that's going into like, couples therapy, and like they're watching and making them wait and then turning the temperature up 1 degree at a time.
Yes.
But yeah. So the other thing about Florida Gothic too is that, as I said before, nothing here is old. And I think when people think of Gothic, they think of,
Hmm.
hundreds of year old
Hmm.
castles in Europe,
Right.
and they think of gloominess. And but here it could be a hurricane tattered pool cage that's covered in mildew, or it could be just like a brand new gleaming subdivision that has a really weird liminal vibe to it, where everything's just a little too perfect. So
Mm.
those sorts of things are like, it's definitely a vibe, but there's also a lot of different elements that I like to tap into
Mhm.
just from being a lifelong Floridian that I know.
Can you tell me and our listeners the lore of Florida Man?
The Laura Ford, I don't. I mean, it's the news hour's favorite guy. Florida Man. It does, if it's something crazy on the news, Florida Man probably did it, right?
Okay.
I think it's just that, I think when you hear something that happened, like, man gets alligator drunk on it and takes him for a ride. you just know it's a Florida man.
Well, what if
So
right
is it
now?
like a possession or something, or like
No, it's like the thing where well, there was that meme where it's like put in your birthday and then
yeah,
Florida
no,
Man.
that's what I
Yeah.
mean. But it's like infected in order to like make a Florida man. Like, because is there any rhyme or reason as to who picks this? You know, how you get to make these crazy choices?
Yeah, I think the possession idea is very interesting. And it could be somebody who's a transplant here or somebody that is, many generations deep living here. I think it's just that Florida man has been infected by being in Florida.
That's what I'm saying. And I swear to you, if I'm wrong, but I just shared the other day of a guy that climbed a light pole, like where the traffic lights are at, and decided to, no, that wasn't correct for that. Maybe it was. I thought
Yeah,
it
it
was.
was.
Yeah. And
Yeah, he was pooping on cars that
yeah,
were
he was
going by. Yeah.
shitting from the top
Yeah.
of the light pole.
And see, when you say those things, I'm like, yeah, that sounds about right. Like I don't even question it.
Oh my God. Well, I got to tell you, I love like going to the South, and doing like the swamp boat tours and all this and that. And, we've done one out like in the middle of Florida in those areas and stuff, but I always get like really paranoid on them thinking like, does this tour guide really know where they're going? And
Yeah.
like, we're just on this like, hey, we're tourists and this is so fun. I'm like, this is real life. Like these are real freaking, animals that don't give a shit if you're on vacation or not. And I just feel like that's just, I don't know if there's any books out there like that, but I would like to read about them because I think that would be really scary that, you know, the guides are actually not, all that either prepared or there's something sinister because you're at the mercy of those people. Like you're not going to be able to get yourself back. And you certainly, if something
Right.
stalls out or breaks down, like you don't want to get out of that boat.
Mm-hmm.
Groupon gone
And
wrong.
there's a guy on TikTok, or it used to be, where he would walk in Florida at night barefoot,
Mm-hmm.
like in the swamps and stuff, looking for things. But look at this beautiful thing.
Well,
And
yeah. Let me tell
yeah,
you a little bit about growing up in Florida. So when I was probably
yeah,
9 or 10 years old, we had a field trip to 6 Mile Cypress Slough in Lee County, which is a
6
swamp
miles.
and a nature preserve. And our field trip was that we waded waist deep in turbid, not see-through swamp water, bumping into cypress knees. And so that didn't do very good for my little 9-year-old anxiety heart.
Anxiety. Oh
Okay.
my
But
God.
yeah,
So
so
if
they,
anybody
brought
doesn't
a
know
whole
what a cypress knee is, a cypress knee is a tree that, for all intents and purposes, looks dead. It looks like it's been cut off, and they only kind of hang outside of the water a little bit, like, but they grow in the water, right?
yeah,
And they come
it's
up
the
to like,
roots of the cypress tree that's coming up out of the water.
yeah, it's like maybe, would you say like 3-4 inches or 3-4 feet tall, like
Yeah.
at kind of at the most.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
that's
So
crazy.
the
Okay.
entire time we're doing this waist deep swamp water hike, you're just waiting for an alligator to come up and bite your butt, you know?
Hell no. This was
So
like
that's
approved
growing
by
up
the
in
school.
Florida in the 90s and having a field trip.
Yeah, like, can you, first of all, I don't want to get wet on a field trip.
What kind of waivers needed to be signed?
That's what I'm wondering.
No, they didn't care about that back then. I'm pretty sure they
Well,
don't do that tour these days with the kids.
I thought that I had like the worst field trip, which was in 8th grade, and I had to go to a waste processing center to watch how shit was, you know? And one of our classmates brought Yoo-hoo and was like really disgusted
Oh,
afterwards.
yeah.
But yeah, like, okay, that's great. That sounds scary. And one of my other fears is like when you talk about getting into the water with the cypress knees and whatever, noodling for catfishing,
No,
like
no, never.
when you have to stick your arm all the way up to your like where your arm intersects with your body and wait for a catfish deep in its muddy hole underwater to bite your hand and then rip it out. And that's how you catch your dinner. Hell no.
Nope, never.
And I just feel some of those catfish are old and big.
They're
Mm-hmm.
huge.
They're
And Adam, every
monsters.
time he sees a catfish, even like it's not on the plate, I'm just talking about just the fish itself. This is how you know he's Southern. He's like, that's delicious. Like his
Looks
little
good.
whiskers and everything. I'm like, what's wrong with you?
That's delicious. Thinking about it now, I haven't. It's been a long time.
So would you do the noodling, Adam?
I'd
to
like to at
catch your
least
own.
have a glove on. I don't know if that's allowed or not, but I mean, you try
Don't be a
anything
bitch
once,
about it. If you're going to do it, do it.
Yeah, yeah. I'd try it once. Only if somebody would cook it for me after.
I will do that.
Okay.
I could handle that. Oh my God. I just can't like water that you can't see in and what's floating in there. And then like the fact that like you're dealing with reptiles that snakes.
Yeah, and truly, water moccasins are more of the threat there than alligators because we're a bunch of kids. We're making a bunch of noise. They're not going to want anything to do with us. But the water moccasins, you accidentally step on them and they'll bite you, and then
I
you
was
die.
just reading a book last
Oh,
night set in the South, which would technically be Southern Gothic, but it's not labeled as horror, but it's like the blue bottle tree. And she's like grew up in this evangelical church where they or Pentecostal
yeah,
church where they handle a bunch of snakes and everything like
Hmm.
that. And at some point in the book, this person runs across like finding all these like venomous snakes and water moccasins, whatever. And they're like, are you sure you didn't put that in there? And she's like, hell no. Like, I'm not touching them. Like, there's certain ones that like, that's crazy. Like,
Yeah,
even that they
even
won't
someone that you
touch.
think is,
Yes.
yeah. It's like the moccasins are even scare people that normally handle venomous snakes that they're like, nope, not getting near those things. It also, it's interesting when you talk about these things too, like where nature kind of like mirrors what's happening with people and stuff like that. Like the idea of these, what is it, the pythons that is such an issue,
hmm
it's kind of very similar to almost like the people where all these people, have come into Florida that or transplants and all this kind of stuff. And that sort of probably tension between people that have lived there their whole lives. It's kind of similar in that way.
Ooh, I love
Do
that.
if you've been in Florida your whole life, do you feel that? Are you happy when people move there? Is there a tension there?
there's definitely a sentiment of like, no, just stop moving here. We're full, right?
Yeah.
I currently live in a pretty metropolitan suburban area, so there's even fewer people like me that have lived here my whole life, and most of the people that live here haven't grown up here.
Yeah.
But I think that in probably the more rural areas, it's even more so like just you see just these, condominiums popping up on the side of the interstate and all these just prefabricated homes, and it's the building's not stopping. They're not stopping building on the swamp, and it's a problem because the
Yeah.
more asphalt we have, the less drainage we have, and the more everybody's homes get flooded, and the more we
My
edge out natural wildlife populations. Anyway, my enthusiasm for our environment and my love for our environment here in Florida is another driver for me writing Florida
yeah.
Gothic and making it the background of my stories. I want people to
Right.
appreciate the beauty here and respect it, and fear it a little bit.
And a lot of times Gothic, like as a larger, genre, is usually about that sort of like tension between the people in power or the people
Absolutely.
with money and that,
Yes.
so to take that into a
Yeah.
space where that thing is happening certainly seems very natural.
Yes.
Yeah, definitely. So wanted to talk a little bit also about, first Birthday Party Demon, and two, I'm so excited Christmas Party Demon is coming out. As
Yay.
soon as I finished Birthday Party Demon, I was like, I swear to God, if there's not a sequel or some sort of continuation, I'm gonna be very angry.
You swear to
Um,
God, you're going to wade knee
I
deep
swear to
into
God,
the
I'm summoning a
Cypress
demon
knees.
to,
Yeah.
but I just wanted you to touch on, was that your idea? Like, when you finished Birthday Party Demon, were you like, I need to keep writing about this? How did that come about?
Well, I haven't written a whole lot of sequels to any of my most of my work is standalone. Actually, I think all of it, with the exception of Birthday Parties, even are standalones. But I had so much fun writing it, and as you guys understand the got the bug for remembering how much reading YA horror as a kid
Yeah.
brought me joy, and just getting a lot. It's very indulgent, drowning myself in the nostalgia required to write these things.
Yeah.
And so when I handed it in, and after publishing day, I was like, hey, Joey, we could do Christmas Party Demon, wink wink, nudge nudge, joke joke. And he took me up on my wink wink, nudge nudge, joke joke, and now we have it coming out December too.
I just feel like the covers for these books, these series are just so
Yeah.
evocative. Like
Oh yeah, Joey does a great job.
mine,
So, uh, birthday party demon, one of the central things that happens is, and I don't think it like actually says this, but they're basically get trapped inside an evil Delia's catalog. It's what happens for, a large part. Like, I just love that, not obviously I was not shopping from it, but it was like, even though my sister was like 5 years younger than me, it's like they just showed up in the mail all the time and they were so ubiquitous. They were so like just looking at it in some of the scenes and ads that you describe within it, it's so like nostalgic feeling. Like,
Oh, absolutely. I mean, if you were alt girl in the 90s and alt teen, or you looked up to alt teens as a younger girl, Delia's was definitely like the holy grail. You know, out of a lot of our price points, unfortunately.
yeah,
Not everybody can spend $58 on a shiny blue spandex V-neck baby tee. But
But yeah,
yeah, it's
they
that
made
was
everything look so good.
not just that, but
I
like,
know.
the hamburger phone, like they have.
All of that. Delia's was like the upgrade to the Deb shop, like exclusive. Like
Yeah.
if you were in school and you had the Delia's catalog with you, it
Hmm.
was like,
You're
Mhm.
circling everything in there. It was like
you
you graduated from the Sears wish book to like the Delia.
can get on the Delia's mailing list.
Yeah, it just.
Who knows? Maybe if
Yeah.
you had a subscription to 17 magazine, they sold you to their mailing list to them or something. Who knows?
Yeah.
I could tell you for sure I had a subscription to that and he must have left my card out, damn it.
Yeah.
Or maybe I just was like at that where my parents were like, we're not spending any extra money on anything.
Mhm.
I was always also very jealous of the what's the word? The people that had the not Land's End. Is it Land's End that they would have like the monogram backpack?
Oh, the backpack. Yeah.
Like LL Bean or
Yes.
Bean,
I was
that's
like,
it.
I even early on, I was like, they must be rich families because
Yeah.
like
Well, they would always like.
we don't get an LL Bean catalog and we don't have anything
Uh-huh.
monogrammed here.
They would always like be like, well, it's actually cheaper because they replace it lifetime guaranteed.
Say that. Oh God, the cringe.
I would always be like, yeah, but you spent $120 on your backpack. Like, what?
Look, we had 4 kids in my house growing up, and my dad had a really good job. My mom was a stay-at-home mom, but she also had her own business for years. And we by no means were poor in any way. But I just think that, with 4 of us, but my mom was like, you can get 1 pair of shoes as you go back to
Mhm.
school, and you can get she'd be like, you can get like 3 slacks. And I know. And like 4 shirts. And I was like, that's not even enough for like an outfit for the
Yeah.
for a week or whatever.
yeah.
So like just to see all these people that had the Delia stuff and just like the Doc Martens like that were like the beautiful velvet blue and like all
Mhm.
this stuff, like it just was this level of like exclusivity and that I could only ever aspire to be.
So when
Yeah.
you wrote, I was just wondering, when you wrote this, were you like, this is my way of getting back at all those rich motherfuckers?
No,
Yeah,
no, it was
that's
just
what I'm wondering here.
no, back then I didn't have Delia's money either, but I was able to use it as a kind of a lookbook for all the I'd go to the thrift stores with my friends back when we could still find good stuff at thrift stores and try to
Mm.
recreate the looks on a budget. But no, it was just an idea that I had for a long time, and I've always wanted to find a way to weave that into a story, and this just was the perfect opportunity.
Well, there's that saying of do you got McDonald's money? It's like,
Yeah.
do you have Delia's money?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think there's the way to say that.
Well,
And
yeah.
I did want to tell you in Credenza, you made me want to go out thrifting,
Well, go ahead.
just because like of pulling all things together and whatever. And so now like tying it back into here with the birthday party demon and saying like, well, you have to like pull your own outfits but it just, I think that there is, this own horror in and of itself where you're trying to just fit in,
Mhm.
at these certain times and, feel accepted. And, you know, there's this brand that can make all your dreams come true,
Mhm.
but you can't access it.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And I love the way that you turn those, scenes, and it's just this like crazy, like turns all these like ads and the things into this liminal, nightmarish space. I think like you do such a great job of that. And I'm very interested to see, now obviously it's probably not going to be the same thing. I've not read or even read a, synopsis of Christmas Party Demon, aside from the title and knowing what happens at the end of Birthday Party Demon. But I'm very interested to see how you take that sort of nostalgic thing and do something new with it. So
Oh
I
yeah,
can't
it's
wait.
a completely different ball game, but same characters, same vibe, but more surprises.
Yes. And I did, when Birthday Party Demon came out, you were having a lot of like nostalgic posts. And I just wanted to say, you definitely hurt my feelings when you said, "Are you taking your fiber supplements now?" If you were listening to this, that hit
I'm just
close to
looking out for my
home.
readers. I'm just looking out for my readers.
Yep. So that definitely hit close to home. Where one can we find you online? And obviously, we know Credenza came out Friday the 13th in June, so that's out now. Christmas Party Demon comes out in December.
Absolutely.
Yep.
So
In December? Okay.
yeah, this December I should also have a anthology that I co-edited with my friend Grace R. Reynolds, "Poison Soup for the Macabre,
Oh, that's great.
Insane and Depraved." That's coming out through Bridget's Gate Press. We're in the process of wrapping everything up and picking out a cover soon, and so hopefully that'll be out for early reviewers, and sometime in late Q3, Q4 maybe. So
And you
that's
both have
also coming out
slashers
in.
coming out next summer, correct?
Say that again.
You both have slashers coming out next
We
summer
do,
too?
yeah. She has one through Dark Matter Inc. that's coming out, Neon Moon, and the same month, my Killer Summer '90s nostalgia slasher is
My
coming out through
God.
Mad Axe Media, and
Okay.
so I'm sure that we'll both be going crazy doing cross promotion with each other over that.
Well, come
Um,
on back, you and
and
Grace.
then
We met Grace at Stoker, and I immediately was like, I love her.
she's great. I love her.
Yeah.
Oh,
We'll see
also,
each other at Fantastic, which we'll be up there
Hey,
in September to see
yeah,
you.
yeah, I'm so excited.
so let's bring you back to promote some of that. That could be a fun little thing together, and
Yeah.
that
Yeah,
time for your anthology.
because we
And
met her at Stoker and
I
she
just,
was awesome. Oh, you did already? I'll edit that out. Look, I'm a night.
I get it.
I didn't have my fiber supplement this morning.
Oh
I
my
can't.
God.
Well, you need your melatonin then.
That's right. Yeah, I didn't get the good sleep. My prune juice. I had to get more. So.
I had a full on. I swear, I thought I was only in perimenopause, and I woke up in like a full hour of just hot and miserable.
Yep, that's it.
I was like, I had to take off my jewelry. Like I was like, yeah. So not only did I stay up past my bedtime, I also had that fun experience. So
Yeah,
I don't want to hear shit out of no.
I need to
Just
take a
kidding.
nap. No, I'm kidding. Did you have something else that you said was coming up too?
Oh, yes. So in February of next year, I also have Bedrot Baby coming out with Quill and Crow. And that's
Very
another pink horror, Florida, early Y2K novel about a sugar baby. And
cool.
that one's
Like
going to
the
be lots of
candy.
fun.
I'm kidding. Not the candy.
So lots of good stuff to look
But that
forward
could be
to.
good for promotion.
Oh,
For
yeah.
entertainment
Oh
I'm
yeah,
going to write
labeling
that down.
babies. Yeah.
send that out. Yeah, with ARCs, send out a pack of sugar babies. I don't
Cute.
know how that does in the mail.
Oh yeah,
Well, that'll be winter. So.
when I was reading Credenza, I opened it up and the little book plate fell right on my face. I was like, "What's this? I was like, where did you get this?"
Yeah, I didn't even know because I read it as an ARC. So I ordered it and didn't even realize it had a signed book plate.
He acted like I was like, he's like, "Give it to me. I need to put it on."
Why are you trying to take my stuff?
I'm like, "Jeez." So, but that was a cool touch too.
Yeah, so very cool.
All right, Wendy, it's been awesome. I'm so excited for all the works that you're doing, and I'm excited to see you in person. And I always love the quintessential red lip as a red lip
Thank
girl
you.
too. So looking forward to seeing you and just the next things that you're coming out to do. It's been a real pleasure, and I think I'm sold on. I need to read I've read a lot of Southern Gothic, but I'm ready to read some Florida Gothic.
Oh, yeah.
I am intrigued.
We got it. So absolutely. Thank you very
Thanks, you
much.
guys.
Yep.
Appreciate
See
it.
ya.
All right.